Carlton have a big Friday night win to entrench themselves in the top four.
The Brisbane Lions lose their roar down in Tasmania.
And the Fremantle Dockers get clapped back to reality.
This is the DrewFooty Show.
Hey, long road, took a tumble down this black hole. Stuck in Sunday League, but I'm on levels with Ronaldo.
Hello, you plonkers, and welcome back today to another episode of the DrewFooty Show. DrewFooty subbed out, substitution on the court, Kados in. It's an upgrade, and we'll take it. Kados, thanks for saving the show this week. It wasn't here last week. Thanks for coming on. How's things?
Things are great. It is certainly not an upgrade, especially in the football analysis department, but I'm happy to be here to provide some banter and some comedy. But another big weekend of football. A few things have happened, which is really starting to separate the boys from the men in the top four and the top eight. So I'm really keen to get into it with you, Drews.
Yeah, we will get into all things football in round 10. To get involved in the show, make sure you head over to the DrewFooty _ Instagram account. That's where we get all the topics and questions for the show, so head over there and follow it up. This week for Bloke of the Week, Caden. I saw him on Friday Night Footy as we watched Carlton beat Sydney. I don't know who kicked the goal, but he's turned around, he's pointed to the back of his skull, and he's got the Carlton logo there. You said in the tier maker that the Carlton Footy Club can't go anywhere without that logo, and that bloke carries it on the back of his skull. What would you have to do to get your team's logo shaved into the back of your head? That's outrageous.
Geez, not a lot. I'm equally as nuffy-ish as this bloke. He's just gone the extra mile, though, and I really do appreciate it. Is it a shave job or a tat job? I'm not quite sure, but it looks like he reps it. Shaved. Well, it's a pretty good effort. It's a pretty nice little design. Yeah, the passion is unbelievable. But he looks like a relative of Roger's, to be honest. So he's probably probably related to Connor. And very passionate. The Blues are up and about, though, so fair enough.
Blues, man, at the football on Friday night, you are the Bloke of the Week. So we're going to go straight into our winners and losers of the week. That's how we roll on the DrewFooty Show these days, MacDonald. I'm going to start it off with my winners. Again, the Friday night game. I'm going to give my winners to Carlton this week. After the biggest win I think they've had in years, MacDonald. The toughest test they faced this year, Sydney at Marvel, and Sydney played well at Marvel. I remember them beating the Bulldogs there last year, and they just looked unreal. It was the best Friday night football game this year. We haven't had many good Friday night games, and it was just that second quarter from the Blues where they took over. Once they start getting a few goals through the big sticks, and the Blues fans start lighting up, the crowd noise gets high, the energy is there. That's when Carlton really put teams to the sword. Kerno with 5 first half goals was unreal. Matty Kennedy, that's Connor Rogers' man there, was unreal as well. He's got a great set of mitts. And down the wire, I thought Tom De Koning was very important to them. Took some massive marks in that last quarter just to settle things down. They battled out 4 quarters again. They did give up a big lead. Almost, they didn't nearly lose the game, but it's been a bit of a trend. They'll get, say 40 points ahead and then choke it a bit. But they managed to hold on and get a gutsy 4 points to take them up into 3rd spot on the ladder. And we've got a question here from JJERTL7 Dosso,
wow.
And he wants to know, do you see Carlton as a flag contender after taking down the top 4 contender in the Swans? Obviously, your D's are sitting pretty at the top, but do you think Carlton can shake it up a little bit?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Look, to be honest, I think they're sort of grouped together. So for me, it's sort of Melbourne on top, and then a little bit of a gap, and then the Lions, and then I think just underneath the Lions is Carlton, Freo, and Saints in no particular order. I think they are the teams that are pressing up into the top 4, but none of those teams I think have necessarily stamped their claim just yet. Still a long season to go, so I'll be interested to see whether they where they all sit with 5 rounds, 6 rounds to go. But at this stage, I can't categorically say that Carlton Football Club are a contender, but amazing win on Friday night. Their forward line is humming, and they've had injuries as well. They've had a few injuries, and they're still banking wins. A little bit worried about the old 40-point comebacks. I'm not sure whether games should be swinging like that, but nevertheless, they're banking the wins, and it'd be a very interesting final series if a Carlton Football Club made the top 4.
When was the last time they got into the finals, the Blues? In Melbourne right now, it just must be buzzing around Carlton Town.
Yeah, well, it is. And what I thought was amazing on Friday night was they packed out Marvel Stadium, and I reckon they're starting to play Marvel really, really well. Like, it's starting to get a bit Bulldogs at Marvel, the last 2 or 3 years, where it's like, geez, this team will torture on their home deck. So that's pretty encouraging. The crowd they got was unbelievable, and I reckon the last time they played finals was, I don't know, I reckon Brett Ratton was coach. 20,
What?
yeah. Was that when they
era?
finished 9th and they got in because of Essendon?
Oh,
I reckon that
must
might have been
around
it. But
that
before
time,
then, it was
2014 maybe.
sort of Brett Rutten time. You could pretty much lock in that they're going to make it this year, which
Yeah.
is crazy. The Blues are going to be in the finals.
They're looking in a lot better form with Freo losing 2 games in a row now. They've hopped us, which we'll get on to literally right now as I bring up my losers of the week. And I'm going to give it to my very own Fremantle Dockers. It's frustrating, Doss, when you think your team's on the rise and then you drop 2 games that you should win 2 weeks in a row. And I rate Gold Coast and I rate Collingwood as well. But, we're sitting up in second after a real good start to the season. I think our players just bought into our own hype a little bit too much. Thought that it would come sort of easily and that the results would just keep coming through. But we're Freo. We don't have a winning culture. We haven't had like a winning culture since 2013, 2014, times around then. So we get a few wins and we think we're all this and that. And then Gold Coast give us a reality check in the wet. You'd think we'd learn our lessons from that Gold Coast game, but we didn't. And in the wet, when we can't use that transitional style, get the ball into space, take a run and a bounce, you literally couldn't bounce the ball on that deck yesterday at Optus. I think the quickest way to move the ball was breaststroke. It was that wet. Collingwood played really well. Even when it sort of dried up towards the end of the game, and Freo were still playing like it was like absolutely bucketing down. So it wasn't a fast game, which just allowed guys like Moore, Howe, Quainer one-on-one all day. Like they weren't having an issue defending Bailey Banfield and Trav Collier. So it's a bit of a disappointing one. And the thing that is the most worrying thing is our next 4 games are all very, very hard games. We've got your boys next week, which we can get into. We've got Brisbane after that, Hawthorn, and then the Blues. And then Port as well. So none of those are easy games to win. We're going to have to win one somewhere along the track. It's a lot different feeling to what we were feeling a few weeks ago when the Fremantle bandwagon was well and truly rolling. The brakes are on. It's a bit disappointing, Doss.
I don't know who says this, but there's a saying in football that you're never as good or you're never going as well as you think you're going, and you're never going as badly as you think you're going. And it's one of those ones where you're probably in sort of both situations where you probably weren't going as good as you started to believe, and you're probably not going as bad as what you think you are right now. But yeah, big test for the next month for the Dockers. Sort of similar time frame last year, the D's dropped a couple in a row, and we were staring down a sort of tough month, and I was going, geez, we could drop like 2 or 3 of the next 4. And the boys sort of learnt on the job and won the following 4, following 7. I don't think they've lost since. It's crazy how things can change like that. You might look at the fixture and be like, geez, this is going to be tough. But you come out the other side of it, pinching 3, and you go, all right, we are legit now. So like, you just never know. But it is an interesting patch, and I think losing consecutively might undo a little bit of your good work at the start of the year, because belief is just huge. And to bank all the wins you did earlier in the season, the confidence would have been high in what the Dockers are trying to achieve this year. So to lose 2 in a row is a little bit frustrating. To lose 3 and 4, then that's really like, the brakes are on the season. So, bit of a tough month for the Dockers coming up, but I'm sure they'll attack it as good as they can, and it's going to be interesting to see how they come out the other side of it.
There's a lot of good sides playing some good stuff at the moment, Doss. I'm looking at the ladder now. You got St Kilda, who are playing really well. Geelong, who just win down at GMHBA. Sydney, Richmond, Bulldogs, Collingwood and Port. And out of all those teams, I think Freo are in the worst form out of the lot. So we're lucky that we have banked those wins, but 8th is only 1 win behind us at this point. So
I think the Saints went through something similar not that long ago, like a couple of weeks ago. I reckon they lost 1 or 2 in a row. The Blues had a bit of a rough patch, and it's just funny. Like, I'd probably put a line through the Saints because they dropped 1 to the Power and the D's, and maybe 1 before it as well. And I'd probably put a line through the Blues for dropping a couple to the Gold Coast and and whoever they dropped games to throughout the year. But now you look at them and they're the flavour of the minute, flavour of the month. So Yeah, footy's a funny game. Just give it a couple of weeks, couple more games, and then you'll get a really good picture of where the Dockers are at.
So Ashton Hurd wanted to know, have Freo fallen off? We won't say that yet, Ashton. I think just we might earn some stripes in the next month.
It's a hurdle.
Yeah. It's going to be a
You've
challenge.
approached a hurdle.
Exactly. We just got to jump it. As simple as that.
Yeah,
now,
bring it
Dosso,
on. Yes.
who are your winners and losers of the week? I want to know.
Well, they're from the same game. So I was driving back
Beautiful.
from Brank's home last night, and I'd gone up to see Eddie Betts play local football, and that vlog will be out midweek.
How did he go?
He dominated. Took the P155 Eddie Betts. He's a superstar. And yeah, so on the way home, we listened to the Lions and the Hawks game, and I love listening to football on the radio. I think the commentary is better because they've got to describe every play. Like on TV, if it gets a bit boring, they sort of stop talking. But on the radio, it's like we literally have to commentate everything that happens from end to end so people understand it. So it just makes it sound so much more exciting. And it was a good game as well. So my winners of the week this week, I think, am I going winners or losers first?
Up to you, mate.
Either. Well, you're going to know anyway. The winners are the Hawks and the losers are the Lions. So Hawthorn are the giant killers of the competition. They have knocked off every prelim finalist from last year in terms of Port, the Cats, the Bulldogs, and then they probably should have beaten the Demons on that day this season. So they should have 4 wins against last year's prelim finalists, which is an amazing effort for a new coach like Sam Mitchell to have. And if you want to look at the current ladder, they only lost to Carlton, who are in the top 4 by point. So they are legitimising themselves as the weeks go on. Their small forward fleet is elite. I'm a big fan of Dylan Moore. I love my man C. MacDonald. He's an absolute superstar. Sammy Butler's debuted in the last couple of weeks, and he was kicking snags for fun. So, yeah, my winners are the Hawks, but my losers are the Lions because they muffed their year last year. Well, they didn't actually because they snuck into the top 4, but there was just a couple of results towards the end of last season which sort of stifled their momentum and stifled their year and took the Lions from like a top 2 certified team to being 5th and only scraping through to 4th with like the last kick of their last game of the season. So I think you've got to learn to win consistently, and it's something I know Crowbar the D's in a lot, but it's something that I've watched them do over the last little bit is they've had to learn to win, and they've had to learn to win uncompromisingly. So I think we're at a point now where we sort of respect North Melbourne. We rock up. We know that North Melbourne are going to throw everything at us. And we sort of perform to that. But back in the day, 2017, 2018 days would have rocked up, gone, oh, this is a win, and not shown up and probably lost it. So I think it's hard to learn that uncompromising, unrelenting winning culture. And the Lions have it when it's on their terms and it's going their way. But on some weeks, they can just not turn up. Now, I'm not, obviously the coach, and I don't know what is going on. But it's happened for the last couple of years. So maybe it's a maturity thing, but you can't be dropping a game against the Hawks. And they dropped this game last year as well. So not in good form down in Tasmania against the Hawkers.
Yeah, the Hawks, they're sitting in 13th still. But you talk about a giant killer in the AFL right now. It's them. Like they've been the team that's come closest to the D's. They've beaten Geelong, come very close to Carlton as well. Yeah, like they're one of the toughest teams to play in football, yet they sit in 13th.
Yeah, well, I thought they were having a better year than the Pies, and I looked at the ladder, and the Pies are above the Hawks. So
yeah,
shows how much I know what's going on. But,
they've had some bipolar performances.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you expect that from a young side. It's just funny that the Hawks can beat like every top 4 team under the sun, and then get torched by the Saints at the G.
Yeah,
it's like doesn't really compute. They've got a touch of the Sydneys about them in terms of like, even though they were down and out, you still don't really want to play Hawthorn. Like, even though they were like 3rd last or whatever they were last season, they still drew with us and like played good footy, and we won the flag. So they're one of those sort of teams that if you're fighting for the top 4, fighting for the top 8, and you've got the Hawks in the run home, you can't really tick that off as a win. Yeah,
their best is just about as good as anyone's at the Hawks. And Brisbane, you can't be conceding 118 points, 18 goals as a top side. You'll never see the D's let in more than 90 points. Very rarely.
So I'll see, the Lions won by 50 points. And I go, really, that's an amazing win. I click on the AFL app and it's like 130 to 80. And I'm like, you can't let an
Too many
opposition
goals.
team kick 80 points. Like if the D's win by 30 points, it's like 50 to 80. Like it's which potentially it's a bit more boring, but I think that stacks up when the whips get cracking.
The Drew Footy Show is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the world's leaders in below the belt grooming. Dos, are you a manscaper or are you a pig?
I am a manscaper.
Good man, that's what we like to hear. Have you ever had a nick or cut?
Of course, absolutely.
The best way to avoid nicks or cuts, MacDonald, is to use the best products, and I think Manscaped have the best products out there at the moment. In particular, the Lawnmower 4.0, which is the best electric shaver on the market. There's an LED light so you can see what you're doing, so you're not getting into any snags or anything. You know where you're looking. Ceramic blade to make sure that you have no nicks or cuts. And if you go over to manscaped.com and use code Drewzy20, you'll get 20% off your order on any of their products, as well as free worldwide shipping. It's a great deal, MacDonald. To avoid nicks and cuts in the future, if you want your balls to smell good, get some liquid formulations, get the Lawnmower 4.0, and you'll be all sorted, sunshine. Head over to manscaped.com. Thanks for sponsoring the video. Let's get on with the rest of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for the quickfire steamroll. Dosso, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer as many quick-fire, short, sharp questions as you can. Jesse's best is 8. So if you can beat 8, you've got a permanent spot on the show. In the Hall of Fame of the quick-fire steamroll as well.
Yep.
All right, you ready to rock and roll?
I am ready. Let's go.
All right, we are off in 3, 2, 1. Are the Saints top 4 worthy?
Yes.
Are Freo pretenders?
Yes.
Could Jai Newcomb become an elite midfielder?
Yes.
Is it a reality check for Fremantle, or were Collingwood just too good?
Reality check.
Yep. Are Carlton a top 4 team?
Yes.
Do the Swans have the best young core in the comp?
No.
How do you feel about the loss? Oh, that's a question for me. How many years will the Eagles be in a rebuild?
5.
I think there's the timer there. I'd stumbled on a question that was for me, and you couldn't have answered it. So I'm going to have to count those up. We'll see how we go. Think you got 7. So you haven't been able to trump Jesse's. That was probably due to me reading out a wrong question. But make sure the questions are thick and fast. There you go, also. Quickfire steamroll. First time, and you've scored a 7. Good job.
Yeah, beautiful. I'll take that. I'll absolutely take that. Yeah, tough. It really gets the brain thinking. I do think a couple of those teams are top 4 worthy, but I probably think that 5 or 6 teams are top 4 worthy. So that's a bit of an easy one to say yes to.
Freo are going to drop out. I reckon it'll be Saints, Carlton. But anyway, we're going to start speaking about more games. Let's get on to other games include. Onto our section, other games include MacDonald. And we'll start off with Geelong versus Port. Does this get any more classic as a Geelong performance? Just like Saturday afternoon down at GMHBA, 35-point win. You know, Guthrie's getting 30-plus touches. Hawkins is kicking goals. Tom Stewart's taking intercept marks. Like, it's just... We've seen this before.
We have seen it before, and then you get a couple of GMHBA stadium games in a row against any sort of opposition, and all of a sudden the Cats are creeping towards the top 4 and they look legitimised again. We've fallen for this the last few years in a row. I suppose if you keep getting into the top 4, you've always got a shout, no matter who and where you are coming from. But yeah, another typical Geelong performance down at GMHBA. They're always pretty tough to play down there. And it probably speaks volumes to your mob getting the job done there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, well, as I said, it's night and day since that last game. That was the peak. We are now in a trough. But they've got Adelaide next week. So a couple wins in a row for the Cats for the first time since round 4, I believe, coming up. If they do beat the Crows, which I assume they will. Bulldogs versus the Suns. The Bulldogs seem like they're getting going again, Dos. They've had a couple good wins on the trot now. Gold Coast have been playing some really good footy as well. Even though the results haven't been coming through very much, they had a good win against my mob last week. They pushed the Bulldogs for 4 quarters on Saturday at Ballarat. But yeah, the Dogs just seem like they're in that 2021 form again. Their stars are shining. Smith, Bont, your mate Trelaw having real good games. And then, you know, Bailey Dale, Caleb Daniel off halfback, just doing what they do. Norton kicking goals up forward. Just seems like the Dogs have found themselves again.
No, they haven't, and I can't.
They
buy into
haven't?
that. They probably have, to be honest. I just can't. I can't buy into that. I still like if they make the 8, then fair play. But the form they showed earlier in the year was diabolical, and I feel like they'll torch some teams, and I feel like they'll show glimpses this year. But I just don't see them putting together a good enough patch to be any sort of threat.
All right. I like the disagreement. They've got Geelong in 2 weeks, so that'll be a bit of a barometer,
That's the
I
litmus
suppose.
test.
Yeah. Although Geelong aren't good either. We don't know what
Yeah,
we're
well,
talking
true.
about.
Yeah, whoever wins that, I'm just going to say, well, I didn't really care about them anyway. So it's really tough.
Moving on to your boys, North versus the D's on Saturday at Marvel. North sort of battled for a little bit, but I feel like as soon as the game got out of, as soon as they knew that they'd have to kick 4 goals to win the game, they just gave up, and then you just torched them. How'd you see the game at Marvel?
Yeah, it did feel like that a little bit. They picked a very contested footy side. I'm pretty sure they made selections to bring in some bigger bodies. And, I don't know if this makes any sense, but that first ring of the contest around, the ball up was hot. It was hot footy. And even probably that second ring, that second handball out, it was some hot footy. And it's pretty crazy. You sort of forget that every team is filled with AFL players. So even though we're coming up against North Melbourne, they're all still big, brutal, competitive bastards running around trying to stop us. So it was like that all day. North Melbourne were very, very good. They just couldn't sustain it for a longer period. But once they start to be able to, I think they've got the foundations to build something. So I was impressed with North Melbourne's performance, and I was impressed that the boys, the D's boys, after a 5 o'clock game in WA, 5 or 6 days earlier, came down to Marvel and got the chocky. So I was pretty happy with that performance in the end.
And we've got your mob next week, MacDonald. Little preview on that one. Freo coming off 2 losses. Melbourne haven't lost in a year. So that just tells you, How do you see it happening?
Well, so I do rate the Dockers, and I like what they're trying to do, but I still think that there's probably a 6-goal gap between those teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit of an arm wrestle, but a third quarter patch or a second quarter patch just beats the difference, and they sort of roll away to a 32, 33, 34 point win for Melbourne. But this is the grand final. Every time we verse teams, they're coming up against the reigning premiers. They've got something to, something to take, something to claim in the game, and they really step up. So I'm keen to see Freo at their best next week at the G.
I hope we do get back to our best. Yeah, well, you've got us at a good time or a bad time because we really, really need a response at this point. I feel like 2 weeks ago I was like, I reckon we'll beat the D's because you've got to lose at some point. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll go undefeated all year. But I think there's going to just be a day where you have a bit of a lapse. I remember that GWS game last year at the G. I was thinking maybe we could pip them on a day like that. But you guys are playing some really good stuff at the moment. And if we don't play 4 quarters and we're finding it hard to score at the moment, you're obviously the best defensive side in the comp. It's going to be a very, very, very tall task to beat the D's. I'll just pick the D's to win by about 5 goals probably. Probably go the same way that the Collingwood game did, to be fair. Let's head over to Adelaide, who played St Kilda on Saturday night. Adelaide was 6 goals 13 to 6 goals 4 at 3/4 time. They should have been about 4 goals ahead. But accurate goal kicking is the most influential determinant of match outcome, as they say in the peer-reviewed articles, MacDonald. And Max King had 7 touches for 5 goals, something stupid. They just got the win. It was a massive win. Even though they probably weren't at their best, the Saints, they just gritted their teeth and got the job done. How big are you on the Saints?
Fairly big. As I said, they're in that bracket with Freo and Carlton for mine. I can't really call any of them contenders, but I reckon a couple of those teams will finish top 4. So it probably puts them in the contender category, but for me, they're not really contenders just yet. But, there's still a half of the season to go. If any of those teams get on a really good run, then who knows what'll happen. Good effort by the Saints to head over. Winning over at Adelaide is not easy. They've got a touch of the Hawthorns about them as well. Yeah. Where it's sort of like a lower team that can get the chocolates on any given day. So great effort by the Saints, and they're just starting to build nicely. They've got some genuine weapons that worry a lot of teams. So there's sort of no real excuses for the Saints anymore. I feel like they've had as big a run at it as anyone. So it's sort of now or never, you would have thought.
Yeah, I agree. Just on that contender-pretender topic that you just brought up. Cardman wants to know who's a better team out of Carlton and St Kilda at the moment. If they were going to go head-to-head next week, I'd probably pick the Blues, to be honest.
I'd pick the Blues. I reckon the Blues can beat St Kilda, but I reckon the Saints are a little bit more consistent and could probably have a better year over the course of 22 rounds. So in a game where they're just versing each other, I reckon the Blues probably get up. But, if we look back at the end of this season, I reckon the Saints will probably finish higher / have a better year.
Okay, I like it. I like that call. Richmond versus Essendon for Dreamtime. It was a fiery affair.
It was.
And after last week when Essendon were criticised for not getting into the heat of battle when Dylan Shield got spooked by Luke Parker and not flying the flag or whatever, they've gone in this week and there was little patch fires all over the ground. And then I saw some article on Facebook. I know
Kane
we love reading into the articles. I didn't see the Kane Corns one. What did he have to say?
He said that they overreacted and it was a little bit cringy, them sort of pseudo flying the flag just off the back of all the criticism. So, and then
what are they meant to do?
Yeah, Matty Lloyd says, well, what are they meant to do, Kane?
They can't win. But they just got outclassed by Richmond, who are playing some really good footy at the moment. I've been loving Daniel Rioli off half-back. Obviously, Rioli's always play forward of the ball and impose their magic in parts of games, but I think he's making a real good season at half-back. Just his, silkiness, hard to catch off half-back, and it's a nice position to play to have some time on the ball. I think that position suiting him nicely. And then a real clash of the Titans over in the capital, GWS versus West Coast. They got let off the chain, GWS.
I had no idea that game existed.
I don't think many people did. So basically what happened was GWS won by 52 points. They had 13 different goal scorers. It was just a coming out party after Leon Cameron's gone. They just had a bit of freedom to express themselves as footballers, I reckon. West Coast probably played their best game since the Collingwood win. They scored 87 points, so they scored more than Freo on the weekend, which is saying something. And Izzy Winder, Peel Thunder boy, with 3 goals. So shout outs to him. But yeah, no one really cares about that game, let's be real. Right, let's head on with the tips. My tipping has been awful, McDonald. I'm 92nd out of 113 in my own comp. In your comp, I'm 26th out of 34. So
yeah, not good. Not good.
Terrible. So I'm on 54 total points and you're on 58. You're sort of middle of the pile in...
just a pretender.
Yeah, you're in 19th.
I'm just a St Kilda footy club of tipping. I'm just pretending. I'm kidding myself.
All right, so let's get the tips right this week, McDonald.
Yeah, let's actually try. Let's actually try.
Yeah, we'll actually try this time. Sydney versus Richmond at the SCG. Sydney haven't been playing too great at the SCG.
I'm tipping the Tigers.
Are ya?
Yeah, I am. Genuinely.
I rate it. Yeah. Okay. Well, I would tip Sydney, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
play.
See, I suck at tipping, so I'll tip Sydney to win by 15 points at home. The next game is Brisbane versus GWS at the Gabba. Should be an easy 4 points for Brisbane, but are you going to tip GWS?
No, I'm good at tipping. Lions.
GMHBA, Geelong versus Adelaide should be an easy 4 points for Geelong.
Catters.
D's versus Rio.
D's for mine.
Yeah, obviously. West Coast have the Bulldogs at home. Should be an easy 4 points for the Dogs. This is an easy round of tipping, Dogs.
Yeah, happy days.
Gold Coast versus Hawthorn. Now, this is one I just see Hawthorn dropping after a massive win.
I agree. I reckon Suns win at home.
It's at TIO Stadium, though. Is that...
Oh, wow. I had no idea. Jeez, the Hawks have played a home game in Tassie and then have to play away in Darwin. That is...
criminal.
Life on the road, I guess.
I reckon if that's up in Darwin, moist conditions, Gold Coast love them.
Yeah, the Suns. Suns will get up.
All right, we'll back Gold Coast to beat Hawthorn. Marvel hosts St Kilda versus North. That's going to be St Kilda, isn't it? Biggest game of the round's probably Collingwood versus Carlton at the MCG.
Wow. I love 2 Melbourne teams on Saturday Arvo football. It doesn't get much better.
That's Sunday Arvo, but...
Sunday Arvo football.
That's right. Yeah. Same thing. Time's an illusion anyway. Who are you going to back? That's a tough one.
I'm going to go the Blues.
It's hard to tip against them at the moment. Collingwood... I saw them play yesterday and they're pretty good. But are they Carlton good? It's Carlton. We'll back Carlton. And then the last game of the round's Port Adelaide versus Essendon. And Essendon can't buy a win at the moment. Port Adelaide, 4 out of their last 5. So we'll back in Port Adelaide. And there are my tips. So half of those will probably be wrong. So we're in for a big round of upsets once again. There's another episode of the Drew Footy Show. Thank you to Caden MacDonald for coming on the show today, Dosso. You've got a Spotify original podcast. Would you like to plug that and tell the people at home what's going on over there?
I sort of teased it in our podcast that was on your channel at the start of the year, saying that big things were coming, and they have absolutely came. Exploded. It's been unbelievable. I've got my Goes Alright podcast, a Spotify original. Head over to Spotify. It's a video podcast, so you can watch it on Spotify. It's exclusive to Spotify, so you won't see it anywhere else. But yeah, I've got that, and I'm just pumping out the videos. The algorithm's getting around me at the minute, so let's make hay while the sun shines. Hopefully
the algorithm can sprinkle over my side a little bit. Who have you got on the show this week on Goes Alright?
Prime Train. We got the big Prime Train who will be in, and then I've got a couple of exciting guests that I'm also going to be recording this week for future episodes. So it's on for young and old.
Stay tuned. Make sure you like the video to support the Drewzy algorithm, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for coming, Dosso. We'll take care. See you next time. You Plonkers.